Let's grow together, and let's give a warm welcome for Reverend Martin.
A kindergarten student was having a tough time putting on his boots at the end of the school day, and he asked his teacher for help. But even with a lot of huffing and puffing and her pulling and him pushing, the boots still didn't want to go on. And after a tremendous struggle, they finally got both boots on and in place. And then a little boy said, "Teacher, they are on the wrong feet." Well, she looked, and sure enough, they were. So together they attempted to get the boots back on, this time on the right feet. And when at last they succeeded, the boy said, "Teacher, them ain't my boots." And trying to keep her cool, the teacher took a deep breath and pulled the boots back off. The child then said, "Them's my brother's boots. My mother made me wear 'em." So although the teacher felt like crying, she mustered up the strength to wrestle the boots back onto his feet. And the teacher said, "Now then, where are your mittens?" And the boy replied, "I stuffed them in my boots." Well, patience, it is said, is a virtue, and not just for kindergarten teachers and nurses, therapists, and others involved in the helping occupations. It's an important quality for all of us, no matter who we are or what we do. If patience is a virtue, we could all stand to be a little more virtuous. Now think about it for a minute. We live in an instant society. We want instant gratification. We want things now. We expect immediate results in the gym or on our new weight loss diet. We expect packages to be delivered overnight or, in some cases, even the same day. We can have the ingredients for a meal delivered right to our doorstep. Everything's already chopped and sliced and diced, saving us 10 minutes getting dinner ready. We can even have a book read to us as we're driving around, or we can have it summarized for us so we don't have to read the whole thing. We have instant oatmeal, instant mashed potatoes, microwaved this and that. And I think all of these instant things have led us to a place where we have very little tolerance for waiting. Perhaps it's time we slow down and practice a little patience. Now, patience is one of those virtues that sounds simple enough in theory. However, it's when we need patience the most that we exercise it the least. Whatever or whomever your trigger, patience is most difficult to muster up when you encounter a roadblock or waiting time between you and that something that you want or need. And it could be something as small as the long line at the grocery store when you just want to get home with your purchases, or the hold time on the phone when you want to speak to a customer service representative, or traffic. Or it could be something as big as waiting for your doctor to call you with test results, waiting to hear back about whether you got that promotion or dream job, waiting to find out if the house you're trying to sell or the house you're trying to buy is going to work out. And a lot of our frustrations in life are caused by shoulds. When people or events aren't meeting our expectations, or in circumstances over which we have no control. For example, waiting for your computer to reboot. We get the idea that things should be different from what they are. Our expectations, though, are often out of sync with reality. And I can think of 4 ways in which this is true, and all 4 can be triggers for impatience. First, as I mentioned, we expect our environment to conform to our expectations. No traffic jams, no shortage of parking spaces near our destination, no long lines, no airport delays, no waiting too long for the food to show up, in a restaurant. And secondly, we tend to expect people to conform to our expectations. They ought to behave the way we think they should behave. That woman ahead of me in the checkout line shouldn't be doing small talk with the cashier. If he said he would call at 3, he should call at 3. Now, even if we're right, it is polite after all to call at the time you say you will. Even if we're right, the fact remains that people sometimes don't live up to our expectations. Third, our expectations are often unrealistic when it comes to mastering new skills, whether it's taking up a new craft or figuring out a new computer application or learning a do-it-yourself fix-it skill or taking up a new musical instrument. We think we should be able to master new skills quickly, no matter how difficult they are. And if we can't master them quickly, sometimes we just give up. Fourth, our expectations are often unrealistic when it comes to what's going on in our minds. We think we should be able to control what thoughts and what emotions arise. After all, we believe in the science of mind teaching. Change your thinking, change your life. But unwelcome thoughts and emotions sometimes pop up. It's the nature of our mind to think and emote and dramatize. And sometimes it seems that there's no stopping it. And certainly, becoming impatient doesn't put a stop to it. So, what can we do to regain control of ourselves? Well, no matter the gravity of the situation, mindfulness can help you practice patience. Mindfulness is defined as the quality or state of being conscious or aware of something, a mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensations. So, what's the link between mindfulness and patience? Well, let's take a look. To understand the role that mindfulness plays in being patient, let's make sure we're all working off the same definition of patience, which, according to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, means the capacity to accept or tolerate delay, difficulty, or annoyance without getting angry or upset. The capacity to accept or tolerate difficulty, annoyance, delay, without getting angry or upset. I don't know of anyone whose life is free of delay, difficulty, or annoyance. In fact, there are very few days in my life when at least one of those aggravations doesn't make a guest appearance. But for many years, my reaction to the presence of any one of the three, delay, difficulty, or annoyance, was to get angry or, at the very least, upset. And then I realized that this response only made me more stressful and made this situation more unpleasant, made it worse. So I began making a conscious effort to respond to delay, difficulty, or annoyance differently. And sometimes, to this day, the best I can do is to barely tolerate their presence. But I've kept at it, and with practice, I'm becoming better able to accept these things as just another part of life. And when I can do this, tolerate at least, or even accept delay, difficulty, or annoyance, I notice two things. First, being patient is a way of treating myself with compassion, because I definitely suffer when I'm impatient, because a lack of patience is a stress response to whatever's going on in my life. I can feel the stress in both my mind and my body. So cultivating patience is a way of taking care of myself which is the essence of self-compassion. And secondly, I notice that being patient gives rise to a feeling of serenity, a calmness of mind that makes it easier to ride out life's ups and downs without being tossed wildly about like a boat in a storm. Seeing the correlation between patience and self-compassion convinced me of the value of this practice. I thought, less suffering and stress, coupled with more calm acceptance of life as it is, sounds good to me. Now, you can't really practice patience if you're not mindful, aware of the situation you're in, and aware of your reaction to it. In times of discomfort, inconvenience, or difficulty, which are inevitable parts of life on this planet, you must persevere calmly, steadily, and most importantly, mindfully. The good news is that even the most impatient people can improve their capacity for patience. And there are ample opportunities to practice being patient, given the challenges that show up in our daily lives. So, you want to get better at patience? You must practice patience. And here are 7 strategies that you can employ to build your patience muscles. First, pause and breathe. If you use the time you must wait to take a few deep breaths, your nervous system will slow down instead of speeding up. And in some situations, by the time you've taken 10 deep breaths, your wait will be over. But in others, where the wait's a little longer, these breaths will at the very least help to center you and allow you to have a calmer reaction to the wait. Conscious breathing is a great tool for staying calm no matter what. And the best part is, this priceless technique costs absolutely nothing. Secondly, stop resisting. Have you ever noticed that when you react to a challenge with resistance, you're thrown off balance and your mood can turn sour and heavy? Everything becomes about fighting the challenge. On the other hand, when you meet a challenge calmly, your mood remains steady. This is the power of responding rather than reacting to circumstances. Most often, it's not the circumstances that make you upset, it's your reaction that causes the stress. So, how do you control this when you're at risk of being impatient? The trick is to stop resisting those experiences that you're unable to change. Practicing acceptance does not necessarily mean that you like, want, support, or endorse everything that you come into contact with. Rather, it means that you're choosing to allow it to be there without resistance when you can't change it anyway. And in this way, practicing patience is making your default reaction accepting what is. This does not mean, again, that you have to welcome that situation with open arms. It just means that you avoid resisting it and let it happen with a neutral attitude. As the Beatles sang, let it be. And don't forget our science of mind saying about resistance. What you resist persists. Resistance focuses you powerfully on what you don't like. And we know that what you focus on flourishes. If we were to use a garden as an analogy, resistance is like watering and fertilizing the weeds in your garden. Resistance helps your frustrations grow. So, another idea is to acknowledge the effects of impatience. In the moment, notice what is making you impatient and ask yourself, do I have control over this situation? And if not, what do I have control over in this moment? Is the feeling of impatience helping or exacerbating the impact of the situation? What emotion or mood would be more helpful instead of impatience? A friend has a saying about this: impatience is its own punishment. Impatience is its own punishment. And it's true. We're not punished for being impatient. We are punished by our impatience. Here's an idea. Look for the silver lining or lesson. Get curious about the moment you're in. Is there anything about the challenging situation that might make a positive impact on your life? Is there anything positive that was not available to you before, but now it's there? And now that this challenge has presented itself, you can use it. And this may include meeting someone new, discovering a new way to get from point A to point B, or just having an opportunity to exercise those patience muscles. Now then, the fact that you're having to wait means that you've got a bit of extra time. So use that time wisely. Now that you have extra time in this moment, what will you do with it? Instead of focusing on the thing that's in your way, instead of fussing and fuming, or looking at the thing that you're after and wondering why you can't get there, focus on something else that you don't normally have time for. After all, how often do you find yourself with extra time? Probably not very often. So use that time to meditate, read an article, listen to a podcast, text something nice to a friend or a loved one, or just practice gratitude. Years ago, I was flying to or from somewhere almost every week. And from time to time, circumstances could make the experience very unpleasant. Now, I remember one time when our plane was being held on the runway because of bad weather ahead of us on the flight path. 30 minutes passed, and then an hour, and there we sat. With almost every seat in the plane occupied, the passengers were already primed for irritability. And as the delays mounted, they progressed from being restless to being downright angry. There was a great deal of R-rated language going around the cabin, and others threatened to sue the airline. We were witnessing what is known as air. Disturbed was the Tibetan Buddhist monk seated nearby. With his clean-shaven head and his long flowing saffron robes, he sat there calmly, fingering his prayer beads. And someone commented on this, and he remarked, "This is an opportunity to practice being patient." So you might try a mini meditation. Take a time out and practice a short meditation or a series of affirmations to help you calm any frustrations or anger that may result from the situation that you're in. And you know that if you maintain a regular meditation practice daily, conscientiously, you know that you can do this and relax anywhere and anytime. And frustrating situations are an especially good time to meditate. Here's another idea. Befriend the situation. Assume that the obstacle before you was put in your way because you needed to slow down and take a break. Watch your impulse to perceive the challenges before you as unfair or bad timing. Instead, shake off any anger or frustration and take this as a cue that you just need to take a moment to slow down, take a break. Watch your impulse to do anything that will increase your frustration. And you'll find that if you shift your thinking about the meaning of the obstacle, you'll wind up arriving wherever you're heading with a calmer, clearer mind and attitude. Getting better at being patient will make your life and the lives of those around you easier, and ultimately will make you a happier person. After all, adversity is part of the human experience and we can't escape it. So you may as well learn to improve your patience and calmly endure the setbacks, difficulties, and unwelcome roadblocks along the way. A few minutes ago, I mentioned the whole thing about instant gratification. One further thought on that. Instant gratification is all about you. Yet the deepest gratification we experience is when our actions benefit others. It's these acts of caring that really matter. They make us whole, loving human beings. When you look back on your life, it's those acts of kindness, which often meant delaying your own gratification, that made life special. A Native American teaching tells us to think about how our actions today will affect the world for 7 generations to come. If we all tried to do that, the world would be a much more beautiful and peaceful place to live. When we're waiting, it may seem as if we have no control. But of course, we do have control over how we respond to waiting. And there is power, great power, in remaining calm. A moment of patience in a moment of anger saves you 100 moments of regret. So practice with little things first, like waiting in line at the coffee shop, or your computer being slow, or being stuck in traffic. And tell yourself that it's okay, that it's taking time. This is not a dire emergency. And then eventually try it with something bigger in your life, something that you want an answer to, or something that you'd really like to happen right here and right now. Maybe waiting for it is exactly what you need right now. Good things often come to those who wait, while misery often follows those who are quick to react. Sometimes I think that God must have a marvelous sense of humor. Since most of us haven't really gotten the point about the value of patience, God gives us plenty of opportunities to practice it in our daily lives. And finally, consciously make cultivating patience part of your spiritual journey by accepting that you are not in control of the timetable. Our time and God's time are 2 entirely different things. There's a wonderful passage in the Hebrew scriptures which says, "The everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, does not become tired or weary. God gives strength to the weary, and to him who lacks might, he increases power." And how do we increase our power? Not by running around like chickens with their heads cut off. The next part of the scripture gives us the key. And the key is waiting. The scripture continues, "Those who wait for the Lord will gain new strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not get tired. They will walk and not get weary. They shall mount up with wings like eagles." Have you ever spent any time watching turkeys? They flap their wings frantically, but they can just barely fly. And on the other hand, eagles barely move their wings. They use air currents to guide effortlessly, higher than any other bird. They wait upon the Lord. So would you rather be patient, wait upon the Lord, and soar like the eagle, or flap around frantically with the turkeys? The sooner you master patience, the easier your life will become, and the stronger you will be. We must often proceed slowly, step by step, little by little, as there's no way to push the river, and there's no way to rush the harvest. Spiritual maturity comes through diligence, persistence, and patiently waiting on God's good to unfold in divine right time and in divine right order. And our good will unfold if we let go of impatience and let it happen. So, hurry up and get patient. Namaste.